Greetings, everyone. My name is Oscar Chacón. I'm the Executive Director of Alianza Américas, one of the organizations that has been fighting for a long time to try to bring about justice for groups of nationals who have been protected under a program known as temporary protected status. Currently, there are a little more than 300,000 people who are protected under this particular program, most of them from El Salvador, but also nationals from Honduras, from Haiti, from Sudan, from Nepal, from Nicaragua, and several other nationalities. Regretfully, this morning, a panel of 3 judges from the Ninth Circuit Court in California announced a decision on an appeal on a case known as Ramos versus Nielsen, which basically alleged that the Trump administration decided to put an end to TPS protections, namely because the Trump administration was being discriminatory in the way it decided, simply because the beneficiaries of these programs are all immigrants that are non-white, all come from countries with racial makeups that are not of the liking of the current administration. It has been mentioned even by the president himself very directly. But second of all, because in doing so, they ignore, according to the plaintiffs, according to the people demanding the Trump administration, they basically ignored the federal administration procedures law, which requires a certain set of steps that, according to the plaintiffs, were not actually observed in the decision to put an end to TPS protections. Well, the panel decided that the people suing the Trump administration did not have grounds, for their demand. They entirely discarded the second argument that I mentioned by basically saying that these kind of decisions on immigration matters made by the Homeland Security Department, or Department of Homeland Security, I guess is the right name, are simply not subject, to judicial review. They are done, and that's it. And that therefore, the lower court in the Ninth Circuit should not actually even allow this demand to proceed, because they did not have really jurisdiction over that kind of decision. And on the complaint that the administration acted following essentially racist and xenophobic prejudice, they basically found that there was no direct evidence that could substantiate, the argument that the Trump administration acted based on, again, racism and xenophobia. So as a result, these nationalities will find themselves in greater vulnerability, not immediate, and that's important to know. Even if things go in an expedient way from the Trump administration point of view, the soonest that these decisions will actually have concrete negative effects will be March of 2021 for most nationalities involved. And for Salvadorians, who are the largest group, the terminal date would be November, roughly middle of the month in November of 2021. So I think it's important to be clear that the outcome of the elections that are soon to take place in the US will probably have a major impact on whether this scenario I'm describing actually comes to be. Because if the Trump administration does not succeed in securing re-election and a Democratic administration comes in next January, it is possible that a Democratic president may decide to use his power to actually make possible for these groups of foreign nationals who have been recipients of temporary protected status to continue to be temporarily protected until there is the will and the desire to actually take action by the US Congress by changing the law and allowing these people to apply for legal permanent residency visas, which is exactly what these communities together have already become. Permanent residents of our communities, part of our social fabric, a very significant number of essential workers, especially in the context of the pandemic. And so it is important to understand that the road ahead is going to be significantly impacted by the results of the elections, which leads me to say that anybody who's able to vote in this electoral campaign, in this electoral season, should do so. Anybody who cares about immigrants, who wants to see justice be done, should participate in the elections and do it wisely, so that we end up, with better people in charge, particularly in terms of the White House, the presidency of the United States of America. I think it is also important to say that there are other potential avenues of relief. There are at least 2 other lawsuits that are soon to be much more active than they have been. One is in Massachusetts, Central Representative versus Donald Trump, and one in Maryland. I don't remember the particular name of that case, but it is a case involving only Salvadorian nationals, whereas the one in Massachusetts involves several nationalities of those who have been recipients of TPS up until recently, and that are bound, to be affected if nothing happens to change the course of the decision announced by the 3-judge panel in the Ninth Circuit. So I like to leave it there and invite you to contact Alianza Américas in case you have any questions. We'll be happy to be of help to you. Needless to say, we will continue to work as hard as we can to advocate for fair solutions, to the situation of these very many nationals who have been living in the country with permissions, who have plenty of U.S.-born kids, and for whom clearly this decision today does not represent a measure of justice. So thank you for your consideration, and we look forward to staying in touch.